Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess, to most of us. So let's kick this off. As a reminder to people who I haven't met before, my name's Matthew Hart. I'm one of the founders of Soter. Also run our product team, and I'm also the CEO of the company. So yeah, nice to meet you if you haven't met me before. And I was in New York last week presenting at a webinar to insurance professionals. And I was talking about the topic of AI and the different terminology that's used in AI. And that's actually what I wanted to focus on in this webinar today, to explain some of the different terms that we use and then examples of these different terms. Because one of my goals of this webinar, and why we're doing this to our user group, is that we can educate together, so that we all become, experts in AI. It's my strong belief that AI is definitely the future. It's already impacting businesses today and all the work that we do. And if we can get ahead of this and become really fluent in the terminology and understand how to use it, then it's going to benefit everyone. So I'll quickly share the presentation. So remembering this presentation was to a bunch of insurance agents, brokers, and carriers, the people that are working for these companies. There was about 80 people in the room. And I started to ask them questions around how familiar they were with AI, and if anyone was using AI today. And only about half of the people put up their hands that we are using AI today, which is a bit surprising because honestly, AI has been around for a while. And when it came to insurance, it's been showing up in underwriting and pricing models for even decades. So these are some of the things that in the insurance world they use AI to do and have been for a very long period of time. So risk scoring of workers' comp, for example, loss ratio prediction. A lot of the prediction on what your premium is going to cost comes from AI models. So the question is, what is AI? And when it comes to these numbers-based models, we haven't, as humans, really interacted with these systems. We've put numbers in, we've got numbers out. That's typically the only interaction that we have. And the reason for that is that AI historically didn't work with text. And the big shift that the entire world is reacting to at the moment is it's a new form of AI. It's called generative AI. So where AI used to work with numbers, now we work with text and language. And this new, let's call it new AI, I'll explain it a little bit more in a second, but this new AI is able to read and interact with words like a human can, or at least mimics, and we think that it does. So for insurance applications, it's able to read policy forms, emails, claims notes. In the safety and insurance, in the safety world in industry, it's able to read incident reports, write policy documentation, all that sort of stuff. And what's enabling this generative AI, how it actually works, this is the term, one of the really important terms to understand. It's called large language models. So when you hear people talking about ChatGPT or Gemini, or if unfortunately you're using Copilot, I'm sorry, but these are all using large language models. And these models are prediction engines for language. They are trained on massive amounts of written content, from websites to publications to, if it's specific movie scripts or, whatever that data is that it's been ingested into its training engine, that's what it's been trained on. And one of the things, like we were pre-warned, one of the things people are really scared of when it comes to AI is there are people out there saying, oh, you have to be really, really good at prompting. If you're not good at prompting, then the language model is not going to understand you and you're going to get really bad answers. The good news here is that it's not about really prompting. It's not that important because these models have been trained on the way that we talk. We understand what it is that when we read things, right? We talk in a way that we talk. We write emails in the right way that we write emails. And as long as if you're good at understanding written content and you're good at communicating, to some sort of decent level, then talking with large language models should feel really comfortable. You don't have to be perfect. You can make mistakes. It's not that important about the prompt. As long as if you're able to communicate your idea, you're able to get answers. Most of us are interacting with LLMs when it comes to your ChatGPTs, your Geminis, or unfortunately your Copilots. Basically, these are LLM interfaces. You ask the question, you get an answer, or you give information and it talks back to you. Some of these providers, these interfaces are giving some additional tools. So, you can create your image, you can do deep research, you can search the web. But these tools are pretty basic, and really it's just like a back and forwards. And the next term that I want everyone to really be comfortable with is agentic systems or AI agents. So these aren't just back and forward conversations. These are systems that are built, and SoterAI is one of these systems. These are systems that are built that then execute work. So using large language models, they do understand the goal. They break it into steps. They have access to tools, or they're able to organize tools or systems, take actions. They're able to build things, and very often they go back to the user for some sort of review of like, hey, is this what you actually wanted me to build, or wanted me to do? And then that's where the back and forwards can happen again. But then you give new instructions, and it goes into this process. Um, so with this bunch of 80 insurance professionals, I wanted to show them an example. And I asked them who's built a website before. And I said, who's actually coded and built a website? And I think it was like 5 people, right? And then I said, who's paid for a website before? And pretty much the whole room put their hand up. Maybe some of you have been on our soda.com website. We were quoted $50,000 to build that website. We didn't pay $50,000 to build that website. So the first agentic tool I want to show you the real use of an agentic system, is a very cool tool called V0. So in V0, it's an agentic system. So if I give the instructions of what it is I want to achieve, this system has the tools to achieve it. In this case, build me a website. So the instructions I'm giving is build me a website, my name, I've attached my CV, and I've defined I want the background color. And what we're going to do as I click this is we're going to watch an agentic system work. So it's reading my PDF document. It's thinking, it understands my goals. It's now thinking, how am I going to execute this task? It's created a design brief for my website. Now it's going to build the website. And it has access to tools that allow you to build a website. This will probably take about 20 seconds. If you know anything about coding, you can sort of understand what it is that it's doing as it's building. It's building the hero section at the moment, which I guess, well, I might be the hero of this, but hero section is like the main point of a website page, like the main first paragraph. It's now detailing my experience. So it's pulled that from the CV, and it's detailing the experience, my education. Well, this will be interesting. You guys will see where I came from. So what you'll see in this is I grew up in a city in Australia called Perth, and then I'm a mechanical engineer, and then worked in the mining industry for I think a total of like 8 years before I left and started SOTA. Okay, so it's created me a professional about me page with my background. A bit of a brief. I don't think this actually came from my CV, so it's built that itself. The founder of SOTA, as you guys know, used to work for BHP, MBA, Masters of Reliability Engineering, Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering. So that's great, right? Like I'm able to build that website pretty quickly. If you look at a full version of what you can build and what I built personally, this was all built within this tool, this entire website. And it gets updated within the tool as well. So there's an example of an agentic system. And I think that's a really important term to understand. The world isn't that, like, business isn't that interested in LLM interfaces anymore. We are very interested in LLMs, which are the models that power systems. And where, like, the world is using agentic systems. It's more about how do you complete the work. So with that in mind, let's go into some real examples when it comes to safety and risk. So if you guys haven't realized yet, we are launching our records module, and records basically allow you to store stuff within the platform. And then in populating these records, we actually use an agentic system. So I want to show you two examples of that. So if I go into incidents, my incident record. Now, one of the things, if you work in industry, one of the things you're probably considering, hopefully you love SoterAI, and it's like, hey, these guys do records now. Why do I still have an EHS platform? And that's definitely what you should be thinking, in my opinion. But one of the things that will stop you from transferring, I guess, to a system, to our system, SoterAI, is the fact that all your data lives in the other platform. So the first thing I want to show you is we've built a workflow that will allow you to bring in your data. It's an agentic workflow that will bring in your existing data and make it as easy as possible to get your data out of your existing system into our system. Every system in the world allows you to export data. It's actually required in most jurisdictions. So you can export data as a CSV. What you would do in SoterAI and let the agentic system do the work is you would choose the file that you want to bring in. So in this case, a dummy file. In that file is a bunch of different columns. Okay, so I'm matching those columns with the new record that I've created in SoterAI. Now the system's going to work out, can I bring in that data? There is actually only 100 rows in this file. So it's saying these are 100 rows, I can bring in the data. Anything after that is empty, basically. So it's saying, yep, I'll bring in those 100 rows. I'm going to now execute that task, and the system is now going to create 100 new records in the system. So this is an AI agentic system understanding the task that it's trying to execute, understands what's in the document, analyzes the document, sees how the data is stored in that document, and then brings it into SoterAI. So there's one example. The second example I want to show you is something I'm very passionate about. This is the future of populating records. There is very little, let's say, in life more soul destroying than filling out a form. And I know for you guys in industry, some of your inspection forms are it can be like dozens, if not hundreds of fields, right? And we ask ourselves or our people to go field by field, type in the answer or select the right answer. I would say even building these forms is pretty soul destroying. Definitely filling them out daily or weekly is not a great user experience. And what that gets us into is the tick and flick. That's what we would call it in Australia. I guess you have the same terminology in the US. Quickly answer the question, minimal amount of detail. I just want to finish this form, right? And this actually creates a big problem. And for you guys who heard me talk about it in December, I think it was, this creates a big problem in terms of the data that we're capturing. If you don't capture great data, and you've got people who are ticking and flicking these forms, getting them done as quickly as possible without really worrying about the data quality too much, then you're sort of limited in what you can do within a system. So when you start building an AI platform or way of analyzing that data on top of really bad data, you're really limited in what the AI can achieve. What we're really excited about at SOTA is we want to help people and we want to make that process of capturing data very easy, but then capture as much data as possible, not really limiting people to quickly filling out the form, but really we're entering we're basically what I'm about to show you is we're entering a conversation with that person. And that is the agentic system. The agentic system is understanding what is the form that you're trying to fill out, and let's help the person fill out that form. Here's one that I created while I was in New York um, on this conference, and you guys know that we obviously had that big snowstorm, and the record type that I created, because I can create any record type within SoterAI, was I created a city ice and safety index, just as an example, right? Just something quick. So it's asking me to give numbers out of 10. What is the surface ice coverage? What is the traction and treatment? What's the visibility of hazards? These are the three questions that I put into this form. If I get out of this, I'm now going to populate this form, and this is what I want you guys to see. It doesn't take me straight to the form. It takes me into a workflow, a conversation. It's going to ask me which one I'm filling out. We're getting rid of this step, so it should know that I'm filling out this one, but I select it for now. It's bringing that form up. It is bringing it up on the right-hand side. But what the agentic system is doing, it's saying it's looking at the questions and the description of the questions, and it's trying to understand how it can help me fill out this form. And this is the conversation that I've now entered into. Now I can type, I can type and answer these questions. I can talk and answer these questions. I want to show you that in a second. Or I can take photos, and photos are worth 1,000 words, right? Well, then a video must be worth tens of thousands of words. And this is what I'm actually going to upload. I'm going to upload a video. I do a lot of running, so this is actually a 10-second video I took while running in New York. But basically, it took the video of the runnings, the path that I was running on. I'm just going to send that to the agent. And then while that's processing, we can actually see the video. So this is me. I think it was like close to 0 degrees. It was pretty cold. But basically, it's a video. And of that, I can see the conditions, right? Our agentic system is now processing that video. So it knows the form that wants to be filled out. It's now processing the video to help me process and complete this form. For 3 questions, it'd be quicker for me to just jump in and give the 3 answers clearly, right? But when it comes to these hundreds of questions that we ask people to fill out, or if these questions become more complex, or if spotting hazards or understanding OSHA regulations or whatever it is that we're asking our people to do is complicated, then an AI system supporting the person filling out this form is incredibly impressive and very, very useful. And we'll make sure that we get good data and not a whole bunch of like quickly filled out data. So it's analyzed my video. It says it's given me a 7 out of 10, which is actually, if you read the description, a 7 is pretty good. Minor ice in isolated spots, fine. Traction looks fine, although it's a little bit wet. And the visibility of hazards, basically, it's looking at how easy is it to see. Well, it was getting to dusk, but there was some pretty good lighting. So I'm pretty happy with those answers. So I'm going to say, yes, that's fine. I'm happy with that. And now my agent is hopefully going to fill out the form. There's my answers. Okay, again, it clearly would have been quicker for me to put the 3 numbers in myself, but again, I think you get the point. And I now validate and I create the record. Okay, record created. It's sitting in the system. So hopefully you guys can see, that's the one I just created. Hopefully you guys can see like how that is definitely a more human experience. Even though we're using AI, we're actually creating more human experiences, funnily enough. And with probably 5 minutes to go, I will show you one more example of this. So let's create an incident. This is also something I'm really excited about. I'm going to talk to the system, basically. So it's going to enter a conversation with me again. I can type in my answers, but typing is slow and kind of annoying. What I'm going to try to do, and hopefully I can do this while I'm on a webinar, is talk to the system. So I'm going to hit my microphone, and I'm going to say that today 3rd of February. Delivery Dan, he slipped on the path while delivering something between the warehouse and the car. And the warehouse was our Portland warehouse. And the specific location, I guess, was the footpath outside. He slipped, but he didn't fall. So he didn't actually hit the ground. And there's no actual injury, but it's a near miss, I would say. Um, and yeah, I think that's the incident. Let's just also add that my name's Matthew, so I'm the submitter. Um, and yeah, you can see I'm saying a whole bunch of ums and, not being super clear. And let's stop the recording. It's going to turn that into text, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to send that. And this is a bigger form, as you can see, including potential root causes, which I think is pretty interesting. And let's see how our system now tries to populate this form. Boom. There it is. It's cleaned up my description. I think this is pretty true to what I said. Severity low because there was no actual damage. I put my location in. Persons involved. Body part, nothing because I didn't actually injure myself. Potential root causes. I could probably clean that up a little bit. So the root cause, or the cause of the accident at least, is that it's been snowing pretty heavily, and it looks like the path has been cleared, but there's still some chunky ice sections, that might have been missed or haven't been taken away properly. Okay. So now it's going to start changing my form. Okay. So I've got like a bit more detail on my potential root cause. Why do I have a field that says estimated number of dogs in Canada? I was trying to make a point to someone that you can put anything, any sort of customization into these forms that you want. There's no limitation. So, that's why that's sitting there. So that's a pretty good record, I would say. I'm going to save that as my incident. Now, I can now do an incident investigation on that. That's another workflow that we have. I can do anything with that incident. I can create a toolbox talk on this, or I can even, actually, I should show you this. I can then create actions. So let's say that I want to create some actions. I could do that here. I've got to go into we're changing the UI of this. Basically, this should take me to the action section. At the moment, I've got to go into here, and then I can create actions on the back of this. So if I open this up, I can give an action to some supervisor potentially to clean up the ice, or review our policy on how we actually clean ice, or whatever the right thing is. I probably might need to do an investigation if this was a serious incident or not, right? So this is an agentic system, again, taking my inputs, filling out a form, but you can see how good the quality of the data is. And now that we have really good data, we can do other cool AI stuff with this. So I might pause, or I will stop there actually talking. So if I want some takeaways out of this, the AI that we're reacting to at the moment, the actual term of that is called generative AI. This is built by models that are LLMs, and I explain how they're trained. These LLMs are then being used to create agentic systems that are able to execute work, which is, I showed you 3 examples or 4 examples of those agentic systems then executing work. And if you guys have any questions, now would be a great time to throw them in the chat. And I will pause for maybe 30 seconds if anyone's going to ask a question. If not, as always, you guys have my email address, and happy to answer any questions afterwards. Okay. If no questions are coming in, I have a team of forward deployed engineers. Basically, these are people that will work with you to set up the system for you. If you're looking to get into records and use an agentic system and help people move away from filling out soul-destroying forms, our team is just waiting for you to get in contact with us. I think the best step is to get in touch with your CSM if you have one, or myself, and we'll figure out who's the best person to support you. And with that, I hope it was useful. Thank you. Hopefully see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, everyone.